Good morning, afternoon, or evening. My name is Ben, and this is part 3 to our Risk of Flame tutorial series that was inspired by Risk of Rain. And first thing we're going to do in this tutorial is jump into our object, and I'm going to fix the animation speed a little bit because I was messing around with this a little bit yesterday after the tutorial video, and because it looked kind of funny to me still. So I'm going to change the image speed when he's standing to 0.1. And there's two places where you need to change that, in the create event and then right here in this event as well, the else event. Okay, awesome. And I am also going to change the running speed to 0.2, the image speed for the running. And there's 4 places where you have to change that. Okay, we've got one here, image speed, image speed, image speed, image speed. So you can see we've changed all those to 0.2, and let's run the game here real fast. And you will notice that the running animation looks quite a bit better when it's not going too fast. It was just moving too fast yesterday. And so this looks better. So, okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a view object. So create a new object. We'll call this object view. And we're going to give it an end step event, step, end step, and inside of this end step event, we're going to give it a code. Now the reason we're choosing an end step event is because end step actually executes right before the screen is drawn, I guess. And so just trust me on this one, it looks better to use end step in this case because we're going to have it follow the player. So first thing we need to do is if instance exists object player, and so we want to check to make sure that the player actually exists. If it does, we're going to do x equals object player.x, y equals object player.y. Okay, so he's going to follow the player, and we're going to make the player actually create this object. So when it's create event, it just creates it right on top of itself. Instance create x, y object view. So our player is going to create a view object. Now don't get too confused. This view object is only here so that the view has an object to follow, because you actually handle the actual view in the room settings. But this gives it something to follow. So if we come into our room, we're going to go to views. Now we're going to create, this is the actual view. We're going to do enable the use of views and clear background window color. Yeah, that's fine. Visible when room starts. Now this view is going to be, let's do so our port on the screen, we want it to be 640 by 360. Okay, so change that. And what that is that's the size of the actual game window. Now let's change the size of our view, and we're going to do half that. So we're going to do 320 by 180. Okay, and you can see that's a view, and it's exactly it's 1/4 the size of what the game view is going to look like, but our room is a little bit bigger than that, which is fine. So now we want it to follow the object view. Okay, and this should work, negative and negative. But our horizontal border, we want this to be half of the room, or half of the view width. So what's half of the view width? Well, the view width is 320. So we want this to be 160. And the view height is going to be 90. Is this right? I had a brain freeze on that. Let's see. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Silly. It's just like 16 plus 16 is 32. So, okay. 90. Perfect. Now we're going to press OK, And let's run the game. And let's see how that view works. Okay, you can see that we're zoomed up closer on our player. Oh, and if your player, just so you know, if your player looks fuzzy at all, if the character looks fuzzy, you need to come up, and then there's this option right here. It's the game settings. You click on this, and go into Windows, go into Graphics, and make sure you uncheck, I don't know how to pronounce that, interpolate colors between pixels, interpolate, I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm guessing. So that should be unchecked, because if that's checked, it's going to make the character look weird. Trust me on that one. So run the game again, and you can see now that the view in our room is actually bigger than our character, and so when our character moves, the view follows us. And the animation looks pretty good. It's not too bad. Oh, that was a glitch right there. Maybe I was able to hit the exact edge of the block again. I thought we'd fix that. But I just did it again there. Oh, I know what's wrong. No, because we've got our parent, our mask. So that has to do with our this little code right here, with our move context solid and how it does direction. So we'll fix that in a minute. Let's not worry about it too much right now. But what we need to do is we need to make that view look smoother, and we need to make our game room quite a bit bigger. So I'm going to come into the room, and I'm going to go into the settings of the room, and I'm just going to make this 2000 by, I don't know, 900 maybe. And now what I want to do, so we've got a larger room, and I can't zoom in on it there. I'm going to take off that. We're going to do a shift. So if you come up here to the top, now this isn't, there's a way to do this in the Mac version, but I'm not exactly sure how. You can actually just move each object individually, but I'm just going to, this is faster. So we're going to shift them, and we're going to shift them vertically by, let's do 64 pixel, no, let's do 128. And horizontally, I'm just going to do 1000-ish. See what that does. Okay, so shifting it horizontally, I must have only done 100. So I'm going to shift it one more time. Vertically, we want to do 0 this time because that's pretty good. Horizontally, let's do 900. That was a little too far. So 0 vertical, horizontally, negative 300 maybe. That's pretty good. We'll just stick with that, okay? So our character's in the middle of this huge room now, and we're going to come into our view object, and we're going to create a new event. We're going to give it a step event, and inside this step event, we're going to give it a code that's going to control the view. Now, I got this code from Simon. He's one of the watchers, and he got it from another tutorial video. I'm not sure which one he got it from, but I learned it from him because it's a pretty cool little trick to make the view look a lot nicer. Because the view right now follows the player exactly, and it looks kind of static and doesn't fit really that well. So this is what the code is. You do view x view 0 plus equals x minus view width of 0, so that's grabbing the view width, and we're going to divide that by 2. And then we're going to subtract the view x view 0 and these two parentheses, and times the whole thing by 0.125. So now you're just going to want to copy this, and we need to do the same thing for the y part of the view. So change this to y, change this to height instead of width, and this to y as well. And that should be good. So let's find out how well that works, because I actually haven't tested this yet. And he just kind of briefly explained it to me in Skype, and so we might have to mess around with it a little bit to make sure it works. Looks pretty good. I think we might need to do a lower value because our view is so small. I'm not exactly sure. So let's try doing a lower value. Oh, I know what we need to do. The view shouldn't follow the object anymore. So come back into your view and let's get rid of the compiler information there. And the view shouldn't follow it anymore because the object is actually going to control that following now with that code. So let's save it and let's see what that looks like. I was wondering why it looked a little funny. But that makes sense if the view is trying to follow the object. Oh no. Yeah. Oh, maybe I should have messed around with this a little bit before I tried to just throw it in here. Okay, let me think about what this is doing. The view x, okay, so we're adding to its relative position. Our x, oh, we need this to be y. That's one thing, okay. Let's see how this works now. Should move towards the player. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, so you can see the view looks a lot smoother now. Kind of follows the player. It just looks better. So, now what we're going to do, now that you've learned how to do views, which is awesome because that just makes a lot of stuff a lot easier, come into your player sprite, and I want to tweak this just a little bit because honestly it looks a little weird to me. So, I don't know about you. I'm going to put that foot down. I'm putting my foot down. And the reason is because of the way that our animation sprite looks. I'm trying to make them match a little better. So that will look fine in the game. We could turn this one a little bit sideways, but I don't want to. Because then we'd have to probably double the amount of sub-images we have, because we have 5 here. We'd have to double it, which would be a lot of work. So let's leave it like that, and we'll turn our player just a little bit more sideways. And we're gonna, we can't actually do that. We can move the arm further this way. Nah, let's leave it. We'll just put that foot down, call it good. And then we could make these all the same so that it doesn't give him that illusion of a... Yeah, that's probably better. So I'm going to adjust these back to... Yeah, we'll do that. So it doesn't look like as much of a angled view now. I kind of adjusted it. If you want to make those adjustments as well, you can. And that might make this look a little better. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to make the blocks look better and make it so the player doesn't look like he's hovering above the blocks. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change our sprite mask a little bit. We're going to come into modify the mask, and we're going to click manual right here, and we're going to do let's do bottom. Instead of doing 19, do 17. Yeah. So we just modified the mask, and we just did 17 on the bottom. In the Mac version, these options should just be right there already, I'm pretty sure. So, okay. Let's run that, make sure it looks like we're standing on the ground now instead of hovering in the air. Okay, yeah, that looks way better. It was starting to irritate me. So this just makes it look much better. We can kind of stand on the edge there and hover, float like that. So that's because our mask is so big. Let's actually modify that as well. And we will do, on the left side, let's add 4. Let's see. And on the right side, let's do subtract 4. So we're at 15. We subtracted 4 to 11. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. This is, seriously, this is how I spend my afternoons. It's sad, I'm sure, but like just tweaking it, just barely, because we don't want him to look like he can float, and that's better. He can still kind of float, but that will look better when we that side looks better than this one. Let's take one more pixel off that right side and make it, instead of 11, let's make it 10. It looked a little weird to me anyways. It looks like there's more on that side, so let's do 10 here, and that should be pretty good. Okay, so if you need to look at these, left is 4, right is 10, top is 0, bottom is 17. But this is just tweaking the collisions just a little bit to make them better. And now after this we're going to do our jumping animation and our... man, that animation looks pretty good because it was a fast animation. I usually spend quite a bit more time on my animations and give them more give them more frames. But that looks pretty good for it's only got 6 frames in it. So that's not too bad. I think the one in my Grain War game has 12 frames. So, or more. I think it's 12. So let's save it and let's create a new sprite. And this is like a mini pixel art tutorial again. Sprite ground. And we're going to make it 32 by 32. And we're going to come into here, and I'm going to keep it pretty simple. Let's get a dark brown color. I'm going to take the opacity down because we don't really want this to stand out very much, but we want it to be dark. So fill it in. I'm going to go, I need to make it a little bit yellower actually. It's kind of red. I'm going to go even darker than that now and put in some little dirt particles. And let's see, that looks pretty good. You want to kind of balance them. It's kind of hard sometimes because you want them to look good when they're next to each other. So you can just kind of look at the image and feel where maybe something might be needed, how to balance it. Okay, I'm just going to leave it like that. But I'm actually not going to leave it like that because I want these to be a little bigger. Some of them. And I also want them to be lighter. This color's too dark. I want to come further this way actually. Looks pretty good. So let's grab this color, go just a little bit lighter, and there we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we're going to give that. Let's see. We're going to create an object, and I'm going to introduce something to you called parent objects. object dirt. Now this is a really tricky thing that I'm going to do here, okay? Right now our player object has a collision with the solid object, right? And what does it do? It makes him stop, you know? He can't run into it, he can't go through it, he stops. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this object solid as well, and then we're going to give this object what's called a parent. Now a parent is basically like, okay, so I'm the dirt object, I'm going to inherit all of the collision events and all of the actual code from that object, unless I have some of my own code. And then my code will override that code. So here's the benefit of it. First of all, when we give this object a parent of the solid object, now when our player runs into this dirt block, he'll stop too. Because the player sees the solid object and the dirt object as the same thing. So we can have one collision event for multiple different kinds of objects. Okay, they just all have the same parent. The other thing is, if this object had a create event, this object would also use that create event unless I gave it its own create event. And if you just wanted to cancel out that one, you could just make a create event and then put a comment in it, and that would cancel out the other create event. So we'll get a little bit more into that. If you don't understand it fully right now, that's okay. I'm going to explain it a little bit more, especially when we get into doing attacks, because we'll have quite a few different objects and we'll be using parent objects all of the time. Parent objects are like so good. So good. We'll get more into it later, but it's basically the best thing that ever happened to GameMaker. So, okay. First of all, we want to come into this object and we want to give it a draw event into our dirt object. We're going to have it draw itself. Surprise, surprise. Draw sprite ext. We're going to do sprite index, image index, x, y, image x scale, image y scale, image angle, image blend, image alpha. So basically we're just giving it all of the defaults, so if we change these things later, then they're going to image y scale, x scale, y scale. Okay. Now, let's come back up here and create a new sprite. We'll call this sprite grass. And we're going to edit the sprite. We're going to make it 32 wide, but only, let's go 6 high. Okay, come into it. Now we've got this dark brown selected. We're just going to drag this over into a dark green and lift it up just a bit. I want to give it a little more color than that. Okay. Now, I'm going to grab this one and draw just basically a box. And I'm going to grab a lighter color, not too much lighter. And we're going to start drawing some grass in this box. And you want to do it both ways probably, up and down. Now, I've already done a video tutorial that kind of shows how to do this. We're just going to do a simple version of it. If you want to go see the more complicated version that I think looks nicer, you can go watch that video. It's a sandbox tiles or something like that. We're doing a simple version of the sandbox tiles, so looks good. I'm going to take off these corners. Like that. Hopefully that'll work. We'll see, I guess. I can take off a couple more in other spots and then it might look better. Like that. Okay. Looks very raggedy, kind of. So we're gonna leave its, well, actually no, we're gonna center the Y origin. So just press center and then put set X back to 0. That should work pretty good. Okay. Now inside of our dirt object, we're going to give it a step event. Well, not a step event. Inside the draw event, we're going to do a check. So if place free x, y minus 1. So we're going to check above us. And if it is free, then what are we going to do? We're going to draw the grass. Draw ext. And we're going to do sprite, grass, image index 0, x, y, image x scale 1, image y scale 1, image angle 0, image blend C white, image alpha 1. Okay. Now let's come back into our room, and I'm going to, oh, that kind of messed things up, didn't it? My stuff is in weird spots. I'm just going to delete them. And we're going to grab the dirt one, just plug it in. And let's see what this looks like. I have no clue what it's going to look like. Let's try it. Find out. So hopefully the idea is that the grass will only be, the dirt object will only draw grass if there's nothing above it. And you can see that that worked. But unfortunately I made a mistake and I drew the grass looks a little weird. It looks like I stretched it. Let's go check a few things. First of all, I drew the grass before the dirt. We want to draw it after the dirt so it's in front of it. So copy the grass code and put it after the dirt. And let's do a comment here. Draw grass. Draw dirt. That seems so funny to me. Okay. Now, oh, because I did a y scale of 2. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. Yeah, that's weird. Okay, just give the y scale 1. I must have accidentally typed that in. So, let's look at this one more time. I was wondering why the grass looked so weird. I was like, it looked all tiny and stretched, which it was stretched. So, okay, that's looking way better. And I'm sure you agree. It's not perfect yet, but look how nice and smooth that looks. I mean, this is looking very, very good. And my favorite thing about this trick is it doesn't take, you know, like a ton of skill to be able to do it. Like pixel arting skill, I mean. So now we're going to duplicate the grass. And actually, let's not mess with that right now. Let's go into our ground object, and I'm going to do one more trick just to make this a little bit nicer. We're going to transform the image, and we're going to resize the canvas. We're going to make it 34 by 34, but we're going to keep the ground in the center. Okay, so we just added 1 pixel border to the entire image. Now we're going to do our x and y origin. Instead of at 0, 0, it's going to be at 1 and 1. Okay. Now we're going to edit the image, and we're going to come into it, and this is going to give us, I accidentally turned the grid on, I don't really care about the grid. This is going to give us more rounded edges. So select the dirt, and just grab the light color, and draw everything except the very corners, so there's going to be like these little triangle things in the corners. Okay. Now let's go see what our game looks like. That should just give our dirt rounded edges in the game, and will hopefully make it look a little bit nicer. That looks great and all, but it's not drawing our grass now. And also, the corners are wrong. Sorry. been a while since I've done it this way. So draw just so that there's just one pixel free in each corner. Make sure that's the transparent color. Okay, so that's wrong. Now why on earth isn't it drawing our grass? Oh, I know why. Okay, never mind. Go into the dirt. And okay, give the dirt a mask of the solid object. Now here's why it wasn't drawing the grass. Because we made the image bigger, they're actually overlapping just a teeny bit, which is good. It's going to make it look nicer. But then when we try and check to see if there's nothing above it, this check doesn't work. But if we give it a mask, then the mask will be the same as this solid object, putting the mask back to the same size, so they won't be inside of each other anymore. But the sprite will, but not the collision checking with the mask. So, yeah. That should fix it, and this should look good. Let's cross our fingers. Okay, yeah, that looks good, because the edges are just a little bit rounded now and don't look quite as sharp. And the grass still looks good. I mean, dang, this game's looking pretty awesome. It's looking like Risk of Rain, you know? So, next, what we're going to do is just to finish off this tutorial, we're going to do the jumping. Actually, I lied. I'm going to do jumping tomorrow. Here's why. Jumping is going to be just a little bit more complicated, and I don't want this video to last for forever because I want to be able to upload it. So, my computer's kind of slow uploading these videos, and this one's already long enough. So, I appreciate you guys watching it. Hopefully, you're a lot happier with the way the game looks, because the first two tutorials, the game actually looked kind of crappy, even though the code was pretty good. So, there's a couple things we still need to do. We need to make sure and fix that corner edge thing. I'll do some work on that. And then we'll get the jumping in tomorrow. And then after that we can start on attacking and enemies and stuff. So I'm super excited for that part as well. So be sure and like and favorite this video, share it with your friends. Let's build Risk of Rain together, and I will talk to you guys later.